Dedication. I'd like to dedicate this book to the three constants in my life. First and foremost is to my crazy mom. Without her in my life, I might have turned out normal and missed out on a lot of adventure. Most of all, she's always supported me in my many ups and downs. Second, this is for my two brothers from other mothers, Tommy and Brian. Their friendship and support never waned, even when I was, a pain in the butt. Start of the book. Have you ever felt like you were on the right track, only to have your world upended? This book is about overcoming struggles and finding answers in unlikely places. This fable demonstrates a series of basic principles that will help you provide clarity and lay the groundwork to finding solutions to some of life's difficult situations. Chapter 1. Tommy began his day like most others, enjoying breakfast with his son Brian and then driving him down to the bus stop. They filled their time they spent waiting for the bus with jokes and banter about their upcoming day, as had been their routine since moving out to the countryside a few years earlier. Tommy enjoyed his 30-minute commute through the countryside in the mornings. The fragrant blend of fresh-cut hay, steaming coffee, and the occasional cattle drive worked out a special aromatherapy to kickstart his day. The drive to Sanitas S, where he worked as the vice president of delivery, always seemed to fill him with enthusiasm of a child going to play at a park with his friends on a sunny day. Today was no different as his mind wandered through all that had been happening at work. The last few years at Sanitas S had been filled with many accomplishments for both Tommy and his colleagues. They had become the second family. For many of the employees, including senior management, who saw their CEO as an older uncle or father figure. A relatively new player in the software industry, Sanitas S released a new health registration portal, SE Dashboard, that had been successful. The dashboard allowed medical professionals and their patients to gain quick access to insurance pre-authorizations for medical procedures. Medical professionals and their patients could log into the portal to provide the needed information or call into the center, and an agent would fill out the authorization form for them. The new high-speed process to gain payment approval for insurance companies was a huge success, which enabled the organization to offer numerous new perks at the office and extend many of those perks to the remote team members as well. The feeling at Sanitas S was that it was more than a startup. It was like a multi-generational family business. A few weeks had passed since most of the leadership had attended an executive retreat with CEO Bart Collins and a team building group. Retreats were always fun, and this one had been focused on taking the organization to the next level. The current leadership was strong and successful, but it was time for some stretch goals, and most of the company's division leaders were excited to have new performance challenges. A few options were placed up for discussion, and the group decided to bring in a corporate consultant to review their progress and opportunities to improve, and then to have the consultant lead them through the proposed changes. In the weeks after the retreat, Bart took the attendees out for weekly dinners. He enjoyed spending the time with his leadership team and saw this as an opportunity to learn how they were performing. During the workday, they all faced hectic schedules that limited their availability to meet as a group. But the dinners provided a relaxed environment so they could open up without worrying about the time. Last Friday, he'd even offered them all access to the corporate box to enjoy a local baseball game with their families. It was his way of giving back to their loved ones, too, for their long worked. I'm going to repeat that sentence. It was his way of giving back to their loved ones, too, for their longer work hours over the past few weeks. All of this was on Tommy's mind as he continued his drive into work. Tommy felt he was in a good place professionally and personally. He was busy, but he paced it well with a clear division between the office and the time on the farm with his boy. Their morning routine was something that had just fallen into place when they moved into the new house after leaving the city. Brian loved having room to play and discovering new ways to somehow demolish clothes and keep the dogs covered in either mud or grass. Even as his country oasis thought, Tommy was tethered to the heartbeat of Sanitas S. As the vice president of delivery, Tommy managed a global team, so his inbox was under attack all hours of the day and night. He was in awe at the amount of email mountain that could stack up between when he left his home and when he arrived at his desk. Today was the day the new consultant was to start, and Tommy was looking forward to the experience. Their ability to review, recommend, and deliver on organizational activities and business goals was critical to pushing the business to the next level. He and his team had received many awards and accolades for their performance over the past few years, so he assumed the consultant's work would be more of a management exercise to tune the performance rather than an organizational shift. The senior management team had already begun filling seats around the table for the initial meeting with the new consultant when Tommy entered the executive conference room. He filled his coffee cup and settled in with a light-hearted group. After everyone had arrived, the vice president of HR, Alexa Watson, introduced Mr. Mavey. Mr. Mavey thanked the group and went directly in what appeared to be a canned introductory presentation. It started as do most overzealous infomercials, and a few in the room offered playful jokes in response. Most meetings had always been open to comments and banter as an acceptable way to keep the tensions low and camaraderie high. Mr. Mavey, however, was direct and to the point. He was not impressed or even receptive to the management team's history of excellence and their upbeat rapport. In Mr. Mavey's opinion, he was hired to take the company to the next level of performance, and he was determined to be successful. Mr. Mavey drove his presentation straight through the occasional questions from the group, only slowing to repeat how successful he was at his job. He shared little information about how the groups were going to improve or defining expectations other than it was going to happen. Tommy felt the atmosphere shift right away, soon realizing along with everyone else that this was no simple pitch. It was the makings of something big and very different. And for better or worse, they had all voted for it. The once joyful group looked like somebody had just stolen all of their holiday gifts as they exchanged nervous glances and took notes. Many of the directives were discussed, but very few details emerged as how they were going to arrive at the grand new results touted by Mr. Mavey. And Mr. Mavey's approach, being so much less friendly and colder than they were accustomed to, had crushed all the sense of open discussion, and questions were welcome, leaving everyone feeling shell-shocked. The meeting left Tommy confused and concerned. He had been dropped into a maze just as the starting gun fired. He couldn't fathom which way to start running.